Welcome everyone to the May 11th meeting of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. I'm President Matt Music, and we're pleased to have you here today. We have a couple of guests that I'd like to draw your attention to. The first is Marta Ortiz Rodriguez. She's here in time for Mother's Day. And actually, Martha, I have to tell you, when I saw this on my list of guests that I needed to introduce, it struck panic in my heart. I got to go get my Mother's Day stuff. So be honest, how many people out there are still behind the 8 ball on Mother's Day? So Mother's Day is Sunday, in case you didn't know. All right, second on the list is Frank Marasco. If you could stand, Frank, and give everyone a wave. Guest of our speaker and Chief of Operations this year. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Chief of Operations. Okay, it's tumbler time. I am going to exercise presidential powers and suggest that we're raising the suggested donation from $3 to $5 because, look, everybody's dealing with inflation. So if you do not have a $ sign on your name tag, or if you're feeling extra generous, a donation of roughly $5 in cash would be great. And thank you for supporting our foundation. Next, my favorite part of the script. Where in the world have I been? So the first thing I need to tell you is that I went with Rotary Club of Des Moines flag in hand to the Rotary Club of South Queensferry, Scotland with Deanne Thompson. This is the home club of the incoming Rotary International President, Gordon McAnally. So that's pretty cool. And then I was off to Egypt with Steve Jacobs, where I rode a camel in the Sahara Desert, saw the pyramids, and was irrevocably lost, I understand, from Jacobs. So I did not come home from that trip, and I think we decided that there is a fee for that.
Yeah, I understand that's the first time Flat Matt has been lost.
Been lost.
Destroyed, so
Leave it to the Jacobs.
Two fines.
So somewhere in Egypt, tatters of my face. All right, if you're planning an excursion, please take me along. You only have a few weeks left because we're winding up this Rotary here very shortly. Love to travel, and all of us love to hear where you've been, so please do that. Happy birthday wishes to John Errol, who isn't with us today because he's out celebrating. And Steve Moraine, could you please stand? Where are you? There you are. Steve Moraine, last week we weren't able to meet because Civitas preempted our meeting, but Steve has been a member of the Rotary Club of Des Moines for 45 years as of last week. Joined when he was 19 is what I heard.
In honor of, I might suggest everybody on your anniversary, I'm putting $45 in.
That's great. $45 is their foundation. Thank you, Steve Moraine. Okay, now on to the program. Bob Vedral will take the podium now to provide our moment of inspiration, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and four-way test, and then following Bob will be Paul Kerpis to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, President Matt. And thinking about Sheriff Schneider speaking with us today, in a moment of reflection on making a difference, that each day the men and women of the Sheriff's Office put on their uniforms to make a difference in our community. How many of you made a difference in someone's life since you woke up this morning? Stand up. Stand up? Yes. Just stay standing. What did you do?
I helped somebody with their job search, so they're in a great job to support their family.
Great. Still stay. Did any of you, what did you do?
I did a recommendation for a young Iowa City West High School student to be on the National Youth Council.
Keep standing, Marty, keep standing. Okay? This is interactive today. Did any of you say to a loved one that you loved them? Did any of you say good morning, extend a thank you or a hello? I believe it's how we interact with one another that we can make a difference in a life. In the past several weeks, can you reflect how you made a significant difference in someone's life? If you have, please stand up. A significant difference. Christina, what'd you do?
I helped an employee who was significantly struggling.
Helped an employee.
Oh, we're transforming the way Wells Fargo exacts care.
Okay. Paul,
Echo that helped someone with a job search.
Steve,
I destroyed Flat Matt.
Randy, what did you do?
Tended my wife's broken leg.
Okay, I hope she's doing better. Everybody still stand. Now everybody stand up. You all did in being a Rotarian. Reflect how your contributions to the Rotary Foundation made a difference in the lives of the educators we recently recognized. The $1,000 stipend to enhance their classrooms will cascade down and make a difference in the students that they serve. And the 6 scholarships of $8,000 were granted to deserving students to make their educational journey a little easier. You all made a difference. I leave you with this reflection. A little boy walked carefully along a crowded beach, where starfish by the hundreds lay there within his reach. They washed up with each wave far as the eye can see, and each would surely die if they were not set free. So one by one he rescued them, then heard a stranger call, "It will make a difference, you can't save them all." But as he tossed another one back towards the ocean's setting sun, he said with deep compassion, "I made a difference to that one." Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the four-way text.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Now greet your fellow Rotarians.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. Lively bunch today. And thank you, Bob, for that moment. Words of inspiration, that's a hard act to follow. Well, it's a beautiful day in Iowa. And it's my pleasure to introduce Kevin Schneider, the Polk County Sheriff, as our guest speaker today. Growing up in Des Moines and as a lifelong Polk County resident, Kevin developed a strong work ethic. His entrepreneurial spirit motivated him to be an auto repair and service franchise owner before deciding on his true calling, which was public service and law enforcement. Kevin has served in law enforcement since 1981. So a little quick math, he's working on about 43 years, if I got that right. And he has extensive experience in every division of the sheriff's office. He was then appointed Polk County Sheriff in 2018, finishing a predecessor's term, and was elected then in 2020, again as the sheriff. He is a graduate of the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy, has earned a degree in criminal justice, and he's also a graduate of the Iowa Certified Public Managers Program, put on by the state of Iowa and Drake University. But beyond protecting us Polk County residents, Kevin volunteers for and is committed to helping others through community and caring organizations. Here's a few examples. Shriners Hospitals for Children, Wreaths Across America, NAACP, Special Olympics, Animal Rescue League of Iowa, and the Iowa State Sheriffs and Deputies Association. As we thank Kevin for his public service, please help me welcome him to the podium.
Like I said, I don't have to say anything. Paul made me sound really good. Thanks for having me. And Steve, you know where you left Matt at. He's in the back of the patrol car the other night. Well, thanks, folks. It's fun to be here. I see some familiar faces that I've met before. And just to give you a little idea what the Sheriff's Office does, because a lot of folks, unless you interact with us, you really don't know what we do. So we have an $82 million budget. That's Frank's job, and make sure he gets it right every year and spends it wisely. Got just shy of 600 employees and 1,100 inmates. What could go wrong? Nothing. We have the largest detention facility in the state of Iowa. A lot of people didn't know that. They think the prisons are bigger. We are bigger than they are. We are located up on Delaware, just north of the interstate, if any of you happen to see it, or hopefully none of you ever stop by for breakfast or anything, but we do that. We prepare about 3,000 meals a day. I have a staff of 8 chefs, and they are chefs. They're all graduates of the culinary arts school. We have special regulations that are required by the state to make sure that we're serving nutritional meals, and we try and do that at a very economic cost to the taxpayers of Polk County. So we've got a good crew. I got a great staff that makes me look good, and but they are busy. We have detention officers who are busy. They take, and those are civilian employees, and we will start hiring those at age 18. So if you know somebody who's looking for a job out of high school and not really sure what direction they want to go, we'll hire them at $60,000 a year to start, which is pretty good, plus all the full benefits with insurance and everything that comes along with the county. And if they want to continue or start their education, the county will pay half of their tuition for them so they can go on to college. So we have a lot of college students that work there part-time and go to college. So that's one little thing that we do there at the jail. And everybody thinks the jail, we'll talk on it just a little bit because it is the biggest, how do I say this politically correct? The biggest thing that causes us the most grief. How about that? So we help the folks there. We sometimes get folks that are sentenced to time in jail, 30 days, 60 days, whatever the case may be. And instead of just warehousing them there, we offer them the opportunity to work inside the facility. They become inmate workers. We will pay for them to become educated and get their safe food handling certificate through Des Moines Area Community College, so that when they get out of jail, they've got that certificate, they don't have to pay for it, and they can hopefully get a better job, which we think might help them from coming back again. So that's just one of the many things we do. We also offer them the GED program. We've got about 100 different programs in there for those folks if they want to partake in it. We cannot make them, but if they want to, we offer it to them. Because it's a benefit to you, benefit to me. We don't see the same folks coming back every week, and it helps our community and helps them stay vital in the community. So we have about 30 medical providers, nurses and doctors that are on staff there. So we're basically a city in itself. So with the chefs, the medical staff, we have dentists that comes in, plus we have programs. When they get out, we work very closely with St. Vincent de Paul and the Salvation Army, a couple other programs to try and find them proper housing and get them hooked up with the job if they so desire. We also on the backside rent some empty jail space to Bridges of Iowa for $1 a year. And Bridges will take folks that are having people that are either chemical dependent, drugs mainly, but alcohol as well. Work with those folks. They're in there for several months, and they help them get jobs, help them get clean and sober, and try to get them on the path, and they have some pretty good success rate. So it's a good investment for us and the citizens of Polk County to have them in our facility, but yet separate. So, and we also have another little division that we call the Patrol Division. And those are probably what you guys would see if you ever live out in the county. We have the white cars with the big gold stripe and the star in the middle. And if you're downtown, you'll see them back and forth, probably between here and the courthouse. We patrol 592 square miles in Polk County. I mean, all the time I lived here, I didn't have any idea that we had that much territory in Polk County, but we do. And when you're trying to race from Mitchellville over to Grimes on an emergency call, then you realize what a long haul it is. So they do a great job. They stay busy out there. We provide full-time law enforcement for the city of Grimes. We have 2 full-time officers there, 24 hours a day, plus an extra officer on the power shift. The same in Bondurant. We patrol them. They are their full-time law enforcement agency and on contract law enforcement. So the city pays us, the sheriff's office, to be their police department, so they get all kinds of services that they couldn't get if they were just paying for their own police department. So with that service comes Mid-Iowa Narcotics Task Force, our detective bureau. It also comes with what we call Metro Star, or a lot of you would say SWAT. So the Metro Star folks that you see running around in the black outfits when there's stuff going bad, half of those folks belong to us, half of them belong to the city of Des Moines. So we share and partner with that and work with the Des Moines Police Department on that. We also work with all the other surrounding agencies in and around Polk County. So we dispatch for 30 different agencies. We do not dispatch for Des Moines, but we are capable. So Des Moines and us have a switch. Basically, we can see all Des Moines' calls on the computer. They can see all our calls. Something would happen, which has happened, a fiber line gets cut, power goes out, Des Moines PD dispatch is out of business. We flip a switch, we take over, and we've done it before and it works great. Same with us. And sometimes it's a planned outage where they have to do a computer, reboot, which is gonna take 5 minutes, and 2 weeks later, we're still fixing it. That never happens to anybody's IT department, does it? Just mine? Okay, I just thought it's just me. Anyhow, we're able to do that. We're Dallas County Sheriff's Office, we're their backup dispatch center, as well as we could do it backup for Marshalltown and also backup for Jasper County. So we stay busy in that dispatch center. We just recently got approved by the Board of Supervisors to add 3 more positions in our dispatch center and 1 more supervisor. I had to look at this because this is amazing to me. So we had 73,477 911 calls last year. Those are the group of folks that are taken in. There's usually about 4 at a time. We're gonna up that to 5. So 182,000 calls on the administrative line. That tells you how busy they are. They are very busy people. And people don't realize the first person you talk to call for help is that dispatcher. So they got your life in their hands. And they have been credited with saving several lives because they are instructed to do CPR over the phone. We've walked people through that, other life-saving measures where they have saved folks' lives, and we're very proud of that. They're also trained in mental health de-escalation. So you call in, you have a mental health, you may be having a mental health crisis, somebody you're with is having a mental health crisis, they're gonna be able to help you walk through that until the officer arrives and gets there to save you, or to try and help you, or to find you the resources that you need. We work hand in hand with Broadlawns and the Mobile Crisis Unit, which is housed out of Des Moines, back and forth, and they need mobile crisis, we get them set up with mobile crisis. But we also have 4 deputies, 4 officers that do nothing but mental health. So you can see a couple of sheriff's cars in the city of Des Moines at a house, most likely it's a mental health committal where someone has went down, had a court order signed by the judge for us to go and transport this person to the hospital to get them treatment. A lot of folks, if you don't have someone in your family, you've got a friend or somebody you know who's had mental health crisis problems. A lot of folks get in there, they get on their medication, they get better, and then they think it's like cold medicine. Well, my cold's gone, I don't need to keep taking medicine, I'm all better. And unfortunately with mental health, it's not the way it is. It reverts back, and we sometimes see a lot of the same people 2 or 3 times a year. And a lot of them get to know our officers by first name. I don't know that that's good, but it does create a bond and a working relationship between the people calling for help and the officers. So it makes things a lot better as far as being de-escalated. So we have that's just 2 divisions. We have another division that you don't even think about unless you're an attorney. And I say that because we serve civil process. So if you're gonna serve divorce papers, foreclosures on house, we do evictions, any order that comes out of the court that needs to be served personally, we do that. About 63,000 of those papers we served last year here in Polk County. So I have a group of about 8 officers that do that and stay busy. Most of them are plainclothes officers. You'll probably see them wearing tactical vests when they're doing an eviction, because the evictions, nobody's really happy about the eviction except the landlord. And the landlord's not really happy because he's probably several months behind on rent. So we go out there, do that, set the stuff to the curb, and then it's the responsibility of those folks to get that taken care of. So those officers are busy every day, they're doing that all the time, and we It's not a job that we love, but it's a job that we have to do. And we also have to handle anything other that comes out of the court. And I say anything other is no contact orders. We serve a lot of no contact orders around in Polk County. And we know we're all talking about gun violence. We all know that we've become a lot more violent society than what we were. A lot more people, you know, when we were kids, and none of us will admit it, but when we were kids, we hit a fist fight at school and it was over. The next day you guys are friends again, or at least you're talking. Nowadays we have to shoot each other or stab each other, and so it's not the same. So we're a lot more violent than we used to be. And we're seeing it in law enforcement. And I can tell you when I started at the Polk County Jail, and I did, any of you that are old enough to remember the old jail right down the street, 110 Fifth Avenue, I still remember the address. We might have had 1 or 2 people in there for murder, 1 or 2. Now I have over 50 in my jail on murder charges. So that just tells you how violent we've become in this community. And it's just not us, it's nationwide. I'm a member of the Major County Sheriffs of America, the National Sheriffs Association. I get a chance to meet with sheriffs from all over the country. And a lot of us have the same problems, just at different levels, different magnitude. So it's a tough environment for everybody, for sheriffs around. So it's it's hopeful that we'll get better. I don't know that we will. It seems like everyone has to carry a gun and everyone has to be violent, and you guys are seeing it. If I had all the answers, I could pay for everybody's lunch today. We'd do a lot better than sheriffs, don't we? So, but just to give you an idea, those are some of the things. But we're starting to populate, and I keep trying to figure out where all these folks are coming from to Polk County. You know, I see all these houses going up. Ankeny touches Polk City now. You know, Ankeny's going to be up in Alderman. Bondurant's growing. It's coming toward Ankeny. So we just, to give you an idea, population that we serve is up 36%. That's out in the, we're not even talking about Des Moines. We're not talking about West Des Moines. We do serve those folks as well, but in a different capacity. It's huge. And you know, the calls, like I talked about, the 911 calls, one of the reasons that we needed to increase our staff in there is obviously number of calls for service, but the amount of time that we spend on the phone with those folks has increased about 45%, because we're trying to de-escalate the situation before we get out there, or before anything goes bad, before the officers get there. So they spend more time on the phone with those folks. If you dial 911 and you're on the interstate, probably a good chance it's coming into our dispatch center. And then for a while, even if you were dialing it in Des Moines, there was some kind of a computer glitch, and we were getting the Des Moines calls as well. Our dispatchers are able to punch a button and transfer them either to us or West Des Moines, wherever the case may be, but they can transfer it just by pushing the button. They stay on the line until you make sure you got help coming and everybody's getting taken care of. But anytime you're out there, you're probably going to get one of our dispatchers. And even if it's on the interstate, it's probably not the highway patrol answering, it's probably our staff, and we'll send you a trooper. Because state patrol dispatch does not do, I call them not full service like us. We do ambulance, police, fire. They just do the state patrol. And then they have to call us for an ambulance or a fire call. So give you an idea of what we do. So a lot of folks don't think we do very much here in Polk County, but we stay pretty busy. You don't hear much about us, which is a good thing. That means I'm doing my job right. You know, I get sued about twice a week because an inmate didn't like his pants or didn't like his meal, and I get sued quite a bit, but most of the time we don't lose. So it's just part of the business, and at first I took it real personal, and then I found out, you know, it's just the way it is, and it's just how it goes. So, but I appreciate the opportunity that I had to serve you folks and be your sheriff. I always tell people, they ask me about politics, and I said, well, I can tell you what my view on politics is. I don't ask you if you're a D or an R before I start CPR. Okay? That's all that matters. My job is to take care of you and keep you safe, keep the community safe, and that's my focus. So that's what we do, and I always said I may not do what's popular, but I'm always going to try to do what's right, and I think that's important. So we have 50 officers stationed right down the street here, 50 officers to take care of our courthouse. We have the biggest courthouse complex in the state, and probably half of the United States, because we have 3 separate courthouses now. We have the criminal courts building, which used to be the jail, which is the criminal courts building, 110 6th Avenue, in case any of you need to know the address. Right across the street is the old courthouse, the historic courthouse, which has just been remodeled. It's a beautiful facility, part of the National Registry. We have the civil court there. So if you're being sued or you have a divorce going on or something, you'll be in that court. And then the old J.C. Penney building is how I referred to it as when I was a kid. And that is our Justice Center. So we have juvenile court there, you have traffic court there, and then you have like the clerk of court and civil, and we provide security for that as well. So we have 50 officers transporting inmates back and forth from the jail to court, plus also handling security there in the I would say in the courthouse, but sometimes in the streets. Incident the other day where a gentleman was supposed to go to court, the officer recognized him, knew he had a warrant, he decided to pull the knife to his throat, and then kind of held us hostage in the middle of the street down here for quite a while. And they finally were able to negotiate with him and got him to surrender. But anything that happens in that area, those officers are on it, well trained to do it, they're all trained, and so they spend a lot of time trying to keep the streets as safe as possible. The Dart Bus Hub gets a lot of folks from all over the city and end up getting dropped right down there. So we see a lot of the homeless folks, which we know quite a few of those as well, and interact with them. So I think I pretty well summed up what we do, and you know, there's a few things I'm sure I'm forgetting. We also have a community relations division, where we go out and do programs and presentations, and I've done some for some folks in here, and we do that as well. So we have school resource officers, which I think is huge, and I've been pushing real hard to get all of our schools. So Alleman, which is North Polk, we have a school resource officer. Saydell, which is right up there, just right across from our office, we have a school resource officer. City of Bondurant, we do their schools and their law enforcement, we have a school resource officer. So our next goal is to get Grimes, and we're currently working with them to get a school resource officer in there. And everybody thinks that school resource officer is just there to be the hammer, to be the bad guy, to put his thumb on people. And that's not the case. What they become is basically a uniformed counselor for those kids. We've had several sexual assaults reported to school resource officers before they were reported to mom and dad. But that's the kind of bond that the officers get with those kids in that school. And if any of you, I don't know if any of you had a school resource officer when you went to school, but you develop a relationship with that officer and you develop a trust, and that's huge. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do with a lot of the folks in the schools. We have have a program that we do. Any of you that are golfers that know Mark Egley up at Des Moines Driving Range, Mark and I put together a little program that was kind of been reinvented, and we bring some of the immigrant children out and let them hit golf balls, teach them a little bit about golf, and the basic reason that we're out there is for two. Number one, so they get a trust with law enforcement, because everybody out there working with them is either a cop or on my staff someplace, and they're wearing the sheriff's badge or their polo, and these kids will develop a relationship with some of these officers and realize that, well, they're not like the officers from my country, which are bad or there to be mean to you or steal from you. They're there to help you. And there's a lot of these young kids that have never picked up a golf club in their life, and they're some natural athletes. These kids are good. Obviously, their sport of choice is soccer, but a lot of them have a lot of fun. I've had 2 or 3 of them. The first group we had they were pretty leery of us. We had about 15 kids. Next thing I know, I had probably about 35 kids, and now it's up to over 50 kids. They come out, they tell their brothers, their sisters, they all come out, and the one thing I noticed is we feed them lunch, have refreshments for them, and then I saw a bunch of them that only ate half their lunch. I said, wasn't it very good? And they said, no, it's great, but I got to take it home for my brother, because a lot of them don't have things or the resources they need. So we knew what we were doing was helping them and their families. We found a couple that were really good golfers. They wanted to go. Mark Egley, myself, we'll sponsor them with all the stuff they need to be a golfer, and hook them up. Mark knows all the high school coaches, so he hooks them up with the coaches and tries to get them on the team. The bad thing is soccer and golf run together sometimes. So but there's a hope there. We took about 30 of them. We got, folks took them up to camp, to Y camp, and their bus transportation didn't show up. So I got a call, can you help us? Yeah, we can help you if you don't mind riding into a van that says Polk County Sheriff. So they thought that was the best part of the whole camp. We came out, loaded them on the bus, got them up at the camp, and said, we'll be here when you're done, we'll bring you back home. So we did, and they brought them at the end of the week, and they had a lot of fun. So we've developed a bond with some of those folks, and it's good to have. And I also kind of a little bit selfish because I don't get to pick and choose who comes to jail. I don't get to read a resume before I let you come into my jail. But I get folks of all nationality, from all over the world, different languages, different cultures. So it behooves me to have folks from every culture, people that speak different languages. I had no idea that there's so many different versions of language in a lot of these countries. They could be, 10 miles apart, but they're a different village and they speak a different language. So it's good to have some of those folks that understand that, or at least understand the basics of that. And so, like I said, I'm a little selfish that way. It works good for me, and I'm glad to have it because it's easier for me to run a better facility and to give those folks the things they need and keep my my facility under control and a good environment for them. So I think I pretty well covered everything. It's a Reader's Digest version. I've been accused of talking to a parking meter for 30 minutes, but you told me I had to just a few minutes. But I'll take some questions. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. If not, I can sit down and you won't have to listen to me. Yes, Dick. See, I didn't know. We already knew his name tag.
Yeah. Are there any rules existing anymore for concealed carry, or do you have to have a permit?
Dick's question was, are there any rules for concealed carry? No. There's not. They're just working at the Capitol to try and make it legal to carry on school grounds. And I don't think it went through. But their argument was, well, if John Smith pulls up to pick his son up and he's got his gun on him, then he can't be on school grounds to pick his son up. That was kind of a far stretch, but as far as I know, it didn't make it all the way through. But otherwise, no, you don't have to have a permit anymore. Anybody could carry. We do try to take the guns away from folks that have been in trouble with domestic abuse. That's part of it. Still usually get a court order from the judge to go out and pick up guns, or they're just told to bring them to us. So most of those people will probably bring us all the guns they got. To be honest about it, we don't see any problems there. But so it's tough. It's just a hard decision to make. A lot of times, folks with mental illness. There are some states that have what they call the red flag law. And if you have some stuff, then you're not supposed to be able to get a permit, but you don't have to get a permit now. So, it's kind of scary sometimes because the officers have to go and confront those folks, knowing they have mental health issues, knowing that they can have a gun, so you know what you're up against, or you don't know what you're up against. Hi, Carl.
I know last week or so you had the fun run, and I just wanted to thank you publicly for your support of the crime victims. You bet. Yeah, it's a lot of folks think, and when I don't want to get off the soapbox, I'll get on it either way if I want to bury me in it. But folks, and most of you would be a victim of a crime here, you wouldn't be a criminal. So whether you're touched by being a victim, you do have some rights, and you should be, repaid for the damages that were done to your property. You should be, people that did this thing should be held accountable. And that's one thing that has been very good, and we hope it continues. And that's the nice thing about it. So we are not the bad guys. A lot of people think, oh, it's the cops. We're the first ones. Everybody forgets. We're not the social worker, but we are the first ones that have contact with the victim of a crime. Because the first thing you do is you call the police. So we're the first ones. We're the first social worker that steps in there to help those people. So that's, but a lot of people forget about that. So. Yes, sir.
As a parent, but really just at this point as a citizen of the United States, I spent a lot of my time hearing about and worrying about some crazy person mowing everyone I know down with an assault rifle. What are we gonna do about it? Obviously, law enforcement's the front lines of that. What are we gonna do aside from remove permits and let you bring guns to school and stuff like that?
Good question. The question was, is what are we gonna do about people and their assault rifles and mowing people down in the schools? That's a good question. I wish I had the answer. But it starts with your lawmakers. We're the law enforcers. So everybody looks to us to fix the problem, but the problem starts under the gold dome.
And I wasn't being.
No, I got you. You know what I'm thankful for? My son just got out of high school and he's in college. So I'm hoping it's a little less worry, but I worry all the time, and it still can happen in college. And I've met with, some of those sheriffs I know, and it happened in their community, and it's devastating to those officers as well. We were just talking a little earlier. There's a lot more than the people that were just either shot. Look at all the number of victims, their family, even the bad person that did it, their family. And then the officers, the first responders, the medics, the fire department, those folks are also affected and devastated by that. So I wish I had the answer, and if I did, I'd certainly share it with everyone. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chief, for your remarks. Very interesting to learn more about your work. My question is, last week we're learning about anti-human trafficking efforts and challenges. So tell me about the resources your office has, and if your officers have had any training about anti-human trafficking practices.
Okay, the question was talking about human trafficking, and if our officers have had any training in that, and what we do about human trafficking. So many years ago, I ran the largest human trafficking program anywhere in the state, probably around the Midwest, and a lot of folks would consider it a prostitution sting. In a day and a half, we arrested 81 people. We said, we're quitting, we're done. To the time we get all the paperwork done and everything, we're done. But we worked with the FBI, and the FBI has a lady who is awesome. She is assigned to do nothing but help the victims. So we were able to rescue one victim from that operation, and it's like my chaplain that tells me at the jail, if I can save one, then it's a good day. But you think there's so many more out there. But a lot of people forget where we sit. We're little Des Moines, Iowa. Why would we have human trafficking? I-35 runs border to border. I-80 runs border to border. And where do they intersect? Des Moines, Iowa. So we see quite a bit of it. And it's not just in the prostitution part. It's the folks that are being brought up here and forced to do labor at less than wage, the minimum wage, or less than the person next to who's making, or they're taking that money and they're using it. So some folks are stuck on the human trafficking and won't cooperate because we don't know what's happening to their family back in their home country. They may be being held hostage by, whether it be the cartel or whoever their coyote was that got them here because they owe money. So it's tough to break through that, but we try real hard, and our officers do attend to human trafficking training and do what we can, but it's very, very difficult. Could we use more resources? Absolutely. But we do the best we can with what we got, and I think we do pretty well.
Thank you.
You bet. Yes, Bob?
Yeah, what are the greatest challenges your department faces in law enforcement in general, do you feel?
Well, as Bob said, what are the greatest challenges that my agency faces in law enforcement? And let's see, I was gonna say the legislature, but no, that's just a joke. I get along with most of them pretty good, but I get up there and argue with them, and I think the biggest challenge that we have is just we have so many needs, and the sheriff's office and every law enforcement officer is expected to do everything. They're expected to be the social worker. We get calls that a 6-year-old is throwing a tantrum and won't go to school. You need to come here and get him go to school. How many of your parents would have called the police if you were 6 years old and throwing a tantrum? I know my dad wouldn't. I'd have been quickly on my way out the door with his help. So those are just some of the challenges of society. You know, we try to do what we can within the parameters of not violating anyone's rights, because everybody has a lot of rights. But it makes you kind of handcuff the officers to do their job. And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges, is doing things without being too handcuffed and going forward. So I went last night to a meeting, and they were talking about banned books from some of the school libraries. Well, you know, I look at it this way: what's on the internet, for God's sakes? These kids are internet savvy; they know more than I do, and they can get on the internet and find everything they want. So I just don't understand some of the arguments, but it's just difficult to try and read everything into what we got. So thank you. Okay, thanks. Oh.
This may be for Frank, but tell me how you are funded. It can't be all Polk County money. Frank, do you get state and federal money?
So we participate in a lot of grants, anyone that we can find, but the majority of the funding is direct from Polk County. Polk County Board of Supervisors.
So the question was how are we funded? And Frank, who's our budget guy, answered it. Most of the stuff we are funded through Polk County. But we do get federal grants that we go after all the time. I always find one and throw at them. And every time I go to a conference, they love it when I come back because I got a new idea. Maybe they don't love it. But anyway, yeah, so and you know, we complain about what we pay in taxes. Realize how fortunate we are to live in Polk County. We are very fortunate to live in Polk County. We have so many more resources than a lot of the other counties around the state and some of these other sheriffs I talk to. But we do spend a lot of money. Probably our biggest expense is salaries, obviously, and we have to be competitive. There's a agency in California, $75,000 sign-on bonus. 75,000 is a suburb of San Francisco, and but 75,000, and they still can't fill the department. I like to brag a little bit. I don't have any openings for deputies right now. I'm completely full. And I like to brag about that a little bit. And then as soon as I do it, somebody retires. Or gets promoted or goes to the U.S. Marshal Service. But anyway, so that's where a lot of our money goes to, is salary and jail. But so the board, the supervisors, I like to argue with them a little bit and back and forth, but they are pretty good to us. They have public safety in mind. And they also contribute into the city of Des Moines quite a bit of money. I know they're working hand in hand on this Court Avenue issue as well. So, and I got the sign that I'm supposed to shut up, or I'm going to be out blocking that parking meter. So, thanks. I'll be around if you got questions.
Okay, thank you, Sheriff. Thank you for sharing your time with us today, and for all of what you're doing for Polk County. We really appreciate it. As a token of our appreciation, we're going to give a book in your honor to the Des Moines Public Library. Rumor has it, it's called How to Keep Steve Jacobs on the Straight and Narrow.
That'll be a big one.
I'm just kidding. Your book will become part of the Rotary Rosie Reader Van Collection. This is a traveling library that was made possible for the Des Moines Public Library as a result of our community service grant a few years ago. Okay, moving to what's coming next. As you consider the following upcoming meetings, please think about who you know who would be an outstanding addition to our club. Invite him or her to join you as your guest. And remember, you and any guest you wish to bring need to RSV by 9 a.m. on the Wednesday before each week's meeting. Otherwise, Kitty begins to pull her hair out. Signing up guests must be done through Kitty, not online. So on May 18, Chris Porter from Drake University will be here to talk about everything related to artificial intelligence. I, for one, am very excited about that. It's about to take over the world, I think. Chris Murphy will be here. He is with Concept Schools and will be sharing all he can for us about the initiatives the state is undertaking with charter schools. And then on June 8th, we'll have Jeff Plagge from the Iowa, who is currently the Iowa Superintendent of Banking, to tell us why banks are failing. Al, can you help us? Okay, we've got time, so I want to do two things. One, every mother in the room, please stand. Please, please, please. Life doesn't happen without mothers. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do as we think about you on Sunday. Really appreciate it. If you could give them a round of applause. And then Todd Wheeler, if you could stand. Those of you who aren't aware of this, at this year's regional district conference, our own Todd Wheeler was recognized by the district for a Distinguished Service Award. Todd led work to move the district's community service grant application online. Thank you for all you're doing at the district level, and thank you for representing us well, Todd. As always, love having you here. We'll see you next Thursday. We are adjourned.